The first stage of our faith is to believe the Father's words to you. You are always with me. I love you, and everything I have is yours. And the second stage of your faith begins when you say it back. When we say to God, you are always with me. I love you. Everything I have is yours. Here's some great relationship advice I took to heart that has actually really helped me. Make the passwords to your most frequent logins, like logging into your computer. Make that password something great about someone you love. Something like, I love Ben forever. Sarah is so hot. Tom is the love of my life. Something like that. Because then, multiple times a day, every time, say, you open your computer, you are writing down and remembering that you love that person. And it's a simple way to make sure you think about your most important person multiple times a day, no matter what else is going on. See, the idea is that we're easily swept up in the whirlwind of life and we forget the most important things. There are these little repetitive things that we're going to do each day anyway that we can leverage to keep our mind on the important stuff. Now, our lives are set up so that we are always interacting with one thing every day: money. Money is an all-day, everyday part of our lives now, and that makes it actually a great tool to improve our relationship with God and others. So one little example could be that every time we take out a credit card to buy something, we thank God for the resources we have and acknowledge that it all comes from Him. I was recently talking to some students taking driver's ed, and they were laughing about the fact that in their driver's ed class, they were getting taught about gravity and centrifugal force. They were saying, like, why would my driver's ed class have to be a physics class too? How often are you thinking about centrifugal force while driving? And I said, having an epiphany of my own, mind you, I was like, oh, because you need gravity to drive, and every time you turn, you are kind of thinking about the force of that turn in order to make it safely. You do think about centrifugal force while driving. It is the same deal with God and money. Like, you may think at first, why do I need to learn about God to understand money? Because God is to money like gravity is to the car. You need God to understand how money moves. When you interact with money, you're also dealing with the original forces in the world. Money is a practical thing, but love and desire and power, there are deep forces behind it. Money's just an object, and there are forces that move behind it. That's why we're talking about both God and money. It's all connected. Now, what Jesus made super clear was that the main goal of our lives is this. Jesus said, the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So everything we do, everything we have should be fulfilling that goal. And because money is an everywhere, everyday thing, it is something we can use to love God and love others every day. And it is a great indicator of how we are doing loving God and loving others. And that's partially why we don't like talking about money. It reveals our hearts. Our money history is a practical, tangible picture of our worries and fears and desires and loves. It's like those documentaries where they use like the special dust and lights to reveal the hidden stains in a hotel room. But it's never too late. Just like every other area of our lives, there is forgiveness and a fresh start every single day. And that's why this series is called Freeway. This is about freedom and fresh energy, even in our finances. So there are these two lies that we need to uncover as we close out this series. Two lies about money that really limit our ability to love God and love others. And they are that independence is something we can buy, and money is in limited supply. And we do all want independence, right? To not have to rely on anyone for anything, to have control over our own lives. And money gets so weird because we think we can buy our independence. We can buy it from other people and even from God. But it's a trap because Then, once you're independent, the supply gets limited. When you disconnect from the source, you no longer have the supply. We want to be independent and have access to an unlimited supply, but we can't have both. Jesus uses this metaphor of a vine and branches. He says, I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. We keep trying to cut ourselves off, live by our own rules, and then we wonder why there are limited resources and everything feels so scarce. There is this story Jesus tells in the Bible that we often call the prodigal son. You may know it. Maybe you've heard the phrase prodigal son or daughter used to describe a kid who has left, who messed up, who went astray, and then they come back. But prodigal actually does not mean what most of us think it means. Prodigal means wastefully or recklessly extravagant. So this story we know as the prodigal son is actually the story of a recklessly generous father and his two sons. It's a story about money, greed, rebellion, anger, resentment, waste, and wild generosity and love. It's about two sons who believe the lies that independence is something we can buy and money is in limited supply. And so today we're going to look at the story and let it show us how to break free from these lies and live a freer, better life. You can find this parable in Luke 15 if you want to look it up yourself. It starts in verse 11. See, it begins like this. There was a man who had two sons. Now, I imagine they live on a large ranch, one that's been in their family a long time. It's beautiful and sprawling with employees and animals and buildings. This is their family business and everyone pitches in. This man and his two sons live and work together every day. The two sons couldn't be more different. One is rebellious and wild, the other is responsible and resentful, and the father loves them both. Well, one day, the younger son comes to his father and says, Father, give me my share of the estate. Which is not just asking for money. In this culture and time, he's basically saying, give me my inheritance, I wish you were dead. It's insulting and hurtful, but the father does it. He divides everything up. The younger son, ready to buy his independence, gets his stuff together and sets off to finally do whatever he wants to do. He gets to make the decisions, he travels, he spends wildly doing whatever he wants until he has nothing left, not a penny. And he has to get a job in this distant country feeding pigs. There's a famine and he's starving and alone with nothing, dependent now on strangers who don't care about him. He's not even making enough money to eat. He decides to go back to the source, to his father's house. There, even the workers are full and have scraps of food that he can at least share. And he starts practicing his speech, as we all do when we mess up, and then we know we have to go back and make it right. He practices, he says, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. He travels all the way back to his father's house, and his father sees him, and his father has like a full body reaction. His dad jumps up, he runs to him, he throws his arms around him. He loves him. He's beyond excited to see him. The son tries to say his practiced phrase, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the dad is too busy hugging him and celebrating him and asking servants to start a huge party. He calls out, my son is home, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Let's celebrate. Let's grill a good steak. This son of mine was dead and he's now alive. He was lost and now he's found, and they celebrate. And meanwhile, out in the distance, the older son is out working hard in the field. He comes near the house and he hears music. He sees people dancing. He calls a servant over to find out what's going on. He doesn't even want to go near the house. The servant says, your brother's home. Your dad is throwing a party. We're having the good steak. And the older brother is angry. He refuses to go in. So the dad comes out to him to ask him to come in. But he's too mad. He's too resentful. He just says, look, I've been slaving away for you for years. I've never disobeyed your orders. I've been responsible, but you never even gave me a little goat to eat to celebrate with my friends. And now that son of yours who spent all your money And now some of mine, probably on prostitutes, thanks a lot, comes back and you kill the fattened calf for him? The dad focuses in on his angry, bitter, distant son. My son, the dad says with so much love, you are always with me. I love you. And everything I have is yours. My son, the father said, you are always with me. I love you and everything I have is yours. And we also need to celebrate because your brother was dead and is now alive. He was lost and now he's found. And that's the end. One rebellious son, one resentful son, and a recklessly generous dad who goes to both of them, who loves them and just wants them to love being with him. This is a story about two sons who don't get it, who want to get away from their dad and be masters of their own fate. They think money will buy their independence, and they believe there's a limited supply of money, so they need to hustle. And we do the same thing. We say to God, just give me what I need so I can do what I want. The younger son rebels to get away. The older son uses work and responsibility to get away. We never see either of them truly enjoying their dad's company or his love. The dad goes to them. And the words of the father to his older son are the words we are going to spend our whole lives learning to believe. I mean, do you believe them? Can you hear the God of the universe, the one who made you and gave you life, saying, my child, you are always with me. I love you. And everything I have is yours. Am I willing to give up trying to be independent of God, to surrender our desire to do what we want when we want, so we can truly live? Jesus said, I came that they may have and enjoy life and have it in abundance, meaning to the full till it overflows. Money is not the point of this story. The same way money is not the point of our lives, but the way we are with money, overspending, demanding, impatient, resentful, comparing, stingy, it does reveal our hearts. And so we ask God to help us release our need for independence from him and learn to love depending on him. Proverbs 30 says it this way, 2 things I ask of you, Lord. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, who is the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God. Daily bread, not a year's worth, just today. I recently noticed that at my house, the snacks were disappearing way faster than normal. So we have 2 teenagers. We keep a lot of snacks around, like lots of little bags of things, of Cheez-Its or fruit snacks or Little Bites or protein bars. They're not, I know, particularly healthy or cheap for that matter, but they're easy to grab and bring to school. So I said to our youngest the other day, hey, I have a question. How many bags of snacks are you eating in a day? Like, where are all our snacks going? And they said, oh, I bring extra to school because some of my friends don't have food to bring or they forget sometimes. So I wanted to have some to share. They do the same for me sometimes too. And at first, I was tempted to give a speech about budgets and expensive snack foods. But then I realized 2 things. Number 1, haven't I been encouraging my kids to share throughout their whole lives? And now they're doing it. And number 2, this is such a great reminder for me when it comes to my perspective on God and my provider. To my kid, there is abundance in our house. There's enough to share. There will be more snacks. And even if we're out of one kind for a little while, there will be more. They will be provided for. Basically, what I realized in that moment is that my teenager has more faith in me and my ability to buy snacks than I often do in God and his ability to provide for me each day. We can't see from God's perspective, so it doesn't feel like enough when it actually is. Here's a silly example. Have you seen the movie Titanic? Okay, if you have, you remember the final scenes in the water with Rose and Jack. Okay, they've outrun hours of danger. The Titanic is sinking. They're now in the freezing ocean. They're scared. They don't know what to do. They find a floating door. Jack tells Rose to get on it. She does. And from their perspective, there's only room for her on that door. There's not enough door to share. So Jack stays in the freezing water and he dies. But from our perspective, there is definitely enough room on that door for both of them. They just told themselves there wasn't enough because they were tired and scared. Do you know Mythbusters even did an episode on it and proved that there was room, there was enough. As we learn to see from God's perspective, we start to trust that there is enough, even when we can't see it. That we can live like kids who know they're provided for, and we can share because there is enough. I remember times as a kid when my mom was newly single, she's figuring it out, and she would have to say to us, like, hey guys, I have $20 for everything for the rest of the week. But I know that God's got us. I'm not telling you to make you worry. I just want you to know. And we made it day by day. And it built my faith that that's how God provides, day by day. When Jesus teaches his disciples to pray, he says, give us today our daily bread. And just like the sons in the story, we have to decide to release control, to stop trying to buy our independence from God and learn to enjoy daily dependence on God. And not in a painful, boring way. The dad in the story is a running to come see you, let's throw a party, everything I have is yours kind of parent. That's who God is. I love this verse in Malachi. But for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its rays, and you will go out and frolic like well-fed calves. When we learn to revere, meaning feel deep respect and admiration for God, there's healing, and we can frolic like well-fed kids. And we are still ourselves. See, some of us, we are more rebellious, and some of us, we are more responsible. And we will still be with God in that. That's the point. You know, when each of my kids were really little, we would go wander around the mall, and both my kids loved to run ahead. So my first kid, I would say, stop, as they got too far away. And that little 3-year-old would stop. And I'd say, wait till I touch you. And they would stay frozen and just stand there until I tapped them. And then they would run off again. And we would do this over and over again. That's how it was with my first kid. They'd play and run a little. I'd say, stop, wait till I touch you. And they would wait. And then I'd tap them, and then they'd go again. Just a natural rule following. My second child, I'd say, stop. And something inside of them would just click. And they would take off, running faster and laughing hysterically. Just natural rebellion. With that one, I had to invent a secondary game where we could actually stay together and have a nice day where I wasn't just constantly giving consequences all morning long. So if I said stop, they could laugh and play and run faster, and it was a game. But if I said freeze, then they had to freeze and wait till I touched them, because then I was serious, and a lack of freezing would mean being put back in the stroller and no freedom. I loved this game. And here's what my kids probably didn't understand back then. While they were playing and longing for freedom and independence, I was cherishing every second of interacting with them. This is how we are with God. While we are playing and longing for freedom and independence, God is cherishing every second of interacting with us. God doesn't want us to go too far away for our own safety. God loves hearing us laugh. He wants to be there and have this sense of trust and love and interaction. God knows our inner rebelliousness and rule-following tendencies. And God could make us stay close, take away our choices. But he wants our hearts, not just our obedience. He wants our hearts so much that he's willing to let us choose independence so that when our hearts choose him, it's for real. See, the first stage of our faith is to believe the Father's words to you. You are always with me. I love you. And everything I have is yours. And the second stage of your faith begins when you say it back. When we say to God, you are always with me. I love you. everything I have is yours. To say, everything I have is yours. What should we do with it together? Everything in our lives is here to help us follow the greatest commandment. Love God and love others as myself. If this is the greatest commandment, then the follow-up question is, what are we doing in our daily lives to love God with all we've got and to love others as we love ourselves? Does our money that is central to our lives demonstrate love for God and love for others? Is money central to my strategy for living the greatest commandment? And you can really fill that blank in with any big thing in your life. Does my money, time, attitude demonstrate love for God and love for others? Money is just a real good indicator of how we're doing because it's everywhere, every day. And so if it's not helping me live the great commandment, then I'm not living the great commandment very fully yet. So what percentage of my money do I invest in my own independence? What percentage goes to spreading the good news of Jesus, helping those in need, blessing others? Every day, God gives us some bread to share. And he says to us, I am always with you. I love you. Everything I have is yours. And we decide if we will say it back. Will you pray with me? God, thank you. It is so humbling to know that no matter how we wrestle with dependence and independence, you are always coming after us. You are running out to meet us when we turn around after rebelling. You are coming to meet us at work when we won't stop working. You are coming to meet us in our bitterness and resentment when we can't even enter into the celebration. You are coming after us. Lord, help us to hear your words and really believe them and receive them. That you are always with us. You love us. Everything you have, you share with us. I pray that we really believe that. And then, Lord, when we're ready, I pray that we would take action and that we would say back to you, you're always with me. I love you, and everything I have is yours back. Thank you for the honor of being your kids. In Jesus' name we get to pray. Amen.